meeting to order. Please join me in a flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone's here with the exception of Councilor Giglio, who has been excused. We hope he feels better. With that, any announcements, any additions to the agenda, declaration of ex-party conflict, bias, etc.? Nope. This is an opportunity for public comment. Is there any submission of public comments? Nope. Okay. Would anyone like to speak? Okay. With that, we will move to the consent agenda for May 6th, the City Council regular session minutes, and the May 15th City Council special session minutes. What would council like to do?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor McDonald.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
Okay, move in second to approve the consent agenda from the 6th as well as the 15th of May. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Moves us to presentations. No presentations tonight. And moves us on to item number 7, which is a public hearing. And that public hearing will be on resolution number 1106, electing to receive state revenue sharing funds. Before we do that, I need to read this, correct? Not yet? Okay. We'll do a staff report from Mr. Brand.
For the record, James Brand, Finance Director. So Resolution 1106 is required. We have a public testimony, and we would like to approve receipt of the state revenue shared funds. These are some taxes made available to the city. They include liquor taxes, marijuana tax, cigarette tax, a generic state revenue sharing, and the big one is the state gas tax. We estimate $666,000 for that. In all, about a little over $1 million, which represents 2 and about 3/4% of the budget for next year. The budget that we'll be presenting does presume that we will collect all of this, so we do recommend passing the resolution to receive these funds. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any questions for James? All right. Thank you. With that, we will open the public hearing. Oregon Revised Statutes 221.770 requires 2 public hearings be held to hear from citizens regarding the use of state revenue sharing funds distributed to the city of Stayton. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony on the proposed uses of the funds. Before opening the public hearing, we'll receive a staff report, which we just did. So, with that, the public hearing is open. Did the city staff receive written testimony or request to testify virtually regarding the proposed uses of state revenue sharing? No. Is there anyone in the audience this evening who would like to provide testimony regarding proposed uses of state revenue sharing? I don't hear any. With that, I will close the hearing and talk about council deliberation. What would council like to do on resolution number 1106?
Mr. Mayor, as Councilor Patty, I'd like to offer a motion to approve resolution number 1106, declaring the city's election to receive state revenues.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve resolution number 1106, electing to receive state revenue sharing funds. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Moves us on to resolution number 1107, adopting the 24-25 city budget, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing property taxes for the fiscal year. Once again, Mr. Brand, hold tight there, would you? Oregon budget law, I'm going to open this hearing. Oregon budget law requires that a public hearing be held by the governing body prior to its adoption of a budget for the ensuing fiscal year. The purpose of this hearing is to receive public input and testimony concerning the budget approved by the Stayton Budget Committee. I will now open the public hearing, which I did. Did city staff receive written testimony or request to testify virtually regarding the fiscal year 24-25 budget? Sounds like no. Is there anyone in the audience this evening who would like to provide testimony regarding the fiscal year 24-25 budget? Doesn't sound like it. Mr. Brand, go ahead.
Okay. So this is the budget as amended in the Budget Committee. There were some changes that you requested, and they've been made. Basically, two changes. One was a transfer to the library to fix the remaining HVAC units and increasing their expenditure authority. That transfers from the facilities fund. And the second larger one was allocating $295,000 to increase the contingency in the general fund and reduce expenditure authority. So with the laundry list of items that were proposed, we've made those changes. It does impact the total budgeted amount because of the transfers, ins and outs. It increases the overall number, but the major difference here is reducing expenditure authority in the general fund and increasing the contingency in the general fund by approximately $295,000.
I just wanted to highlight, if you recall at the Budget Committee, per request, I had prepared a cut package of $300,000, and then with the amendments that were made, we knew we didn't need to cut all the things that were on the identified cut list, and based on sort of the conversation and the vibe I got at the Budget Committee meeting, we are allocating $14,587 that's basically in the mayor city council budget that would be available for the community improvement program. And then we did not cut the $2,500 out of community engagement that was proposed, so we will not be eliminating sponsorships, newspaper ads, or contribution to National Night Out and the tree lighting event. So those were the changes that were sort of based on the direction, based on the amendments that were made and what I had heard. What we did not cut out of the package, everything else that was in the package at the Budget Committee was removed from those budget allocations.
Makes sense. That's good.
And so the general fund contingency has changed from $291,000 to now $586,000. That money is available to be allocated later if you so choose. But for now, it sits in the contingency. So just in summary, this resolution will allow us to tax that $3.328 per $1,000 of assessed value on property taxes, and passes this budget of the $38,275,358. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Brown. Any questions for Mr. Brown? Nope. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. And what would the council like to deliberate for that resolution, 1107?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Ort.
I feel like the Budget Committee spent a good amount of time specifically like thinking about and talking with other communities and the amount of time they spend on their budgets. We feel like we kind of dissect this in detail, and I feel pretty good about the decisions that were made at the Budget Committee.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Sims.
I just had one question on that $295,000 that we put into the contingency for the general fund. And it's more directed towards Lance. I think I'm just trying to wrap my head around will we be able to spend that if we decided to do another road project this year? I mean, that's something we could actually accomplish?
So where are we at, 6 people?
Right now, without.
Bringing the new engineer on staff, and working with the council and staff and coming up with a plan to figure out what streets and when to do, or what streets to do in priority. I think we probably could. I can't guarantee it, but I think if we got enough staff involved and we come up with a plan of how we're going to attack it and create some protocols for us to use, I think we probably could. It'd probably be looking at next spring, though, for that. But
Okay.
I think if we did this and we allocated that kind of those kind of resources, I would probably go out with one big package and do it all at once to get some quantities of scale pricing on it. And maybe instead of 1, 2 streets, maybe we do 3, 4 streets at one shot and mill and overlay and maybe reconstruct one, depending on what we come out of our discussions and what we want to do. So I would say chances are pretty good we could with the increased staff.
Okay, yeah, that helps. I'm just, maybe that's a discussion for later on in the year, and I just wanted to make sure we could actually spend it on some streets, and we had to.
I think the chances are pretty good. I think we do it differently. We just put it all out at once and instead of periodically. I think we just do that.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Lance.
It's encouraging you say that, Lance, because I think that was the exercise the Budget Committee was looking for, so appreciate that. Anybody else? Nope. Council Hort?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion to approve resolution number 1107, adopting the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget, making appropriations for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, and levying and categorizing taxes for the fiscal year. As presented.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been a motion and a second to approve resolution number 1107, adopting the 24-25 city budget, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing property taxes for the fiscal year as amended. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0. General business? Julia, anything under general business? Nope. That leads us to communication from city staff. How about that, Julia?
I do have something there. So first, I just want to acknowledge that you just approved the budget, which is wonderful, and we do have an audience full of people, which is exciting, or at least an audience of people. And so I just want to acknowledge for them, as well as anybody that's watching from home, that as Councilor Ort mentioned, there was a budget committee that met, spent 7 hours going through the budget in detail, and they approved the budget, and then council's action is simply to adopt the budget. So if anybody thinks that there wasn't a lot of conversation there, it's because the bulk of the work got done at the budget committee. So I just wanted to put that out there for anybody questioning. I also just wanted to ask council, I sent an email and I heard back from a few of you. The hospital is looking at trying to coordinate a meeting before the town hall meeting, and so if you could respond to me and let me know if you're available, either on the date I set, or if that's not going to work. I think we want to try to get as many people there as possible. So if you could respond to that email, that would be fantastic. Summer events, I alluded to this a little bit in my weekly update, but I just wanted to highlight that we're looking at doing, I think we're calling them, if you have great ideas, we'd love to hear them, but just ice cream social in the parks. We've got 7 parks, and we're looking at doing ice cream socials basically throughout July, August, and maybe a little bit of September. Inviting the public just to come and talk with counselors. We'll also have some staff there. We're hoping to get at least 2 counselors at each event. We'd love to have all of you. So I'm looking for if there's any days of the week that are horrible, if there's any days of the week that are great. I'd love to get input from you guys on that. And one of those dates we know is going to be National Night Out. We're going to plan on doing a council-hosted event. So there'll still be be the National Night Out, sponsored by neighborhoods. We want neighborhoods to kind of organize and get together, but we also will have a council-sponsored event on August 6th at Pioneer Park. We'll deal with the food and logistics, and you guys will be there to be counselors doing one of your ice cream socials. So that's the plan, but I guess I'll just open it up if there's any dates in July, August, early September that are just absolute no's, or would we prefer to do this weeknights or weekends? I'd love to get feedback so that we can land on some dates and get those calendared.
You want that now?
Well, if you have any initial thoughts, maybe, I'd
Counsel?
love to hear any initial obvious things.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't want to hear from this now, because I don't
Oh.
want to hear if you're out of town. So
Okay.
email me and let me know what dates work. Sorry.
Thank you, that works.
My police chief is sitting in the back going, don't ask them when they're going to be available.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I was thinking like have a selection of weeknights and maybe a weekend, like kind of
A variety. Yeah.
of dates throughout the week would be
Okay,
maybe a good suggestion.
okay. We will work on getting something calendared. If there's anything that just absolutely doesn't work for you, I'd love to hear that. But we'll work on getting that. And then I would like to invite Chief Johns up if she wants to give any updates on any just general police activity, but there was, a little bit of an event a few weeks ago, and I don't know if she has any updates that she wanted to share on the Friday night exciting week that police had a few weeks ago.
Thank you. Yeah, so it feels a little bit old news now, but yeah, we had the incident at the park. And so just to give, because there were some questions that arose from it, but the way it was reported, and I can't put everything in a press release or don't want to and don't need to, but it's hard to represent something in a few words that can go out to the public and dispel concerns and fears. But the incident was reported at the very far back, so not where some citizens had chose to gather. Everything was secured to where we could take care of the incident to where it was reported. And then the person reporting it reportedly knew the people, so this wasn't a stranger to stranger type thing. But until we could prove the whereabouts of the people that were reported in harm's way or find them, we needed to proceed in a manner of making sure people were safe. So we initially called for some extra assistance of a dog and a drone and a couple bodies, and by the time it unfolded, based on kind of what was reported, we got more than we asked for, which is fine, but then you got to manage through all the extra assistance as well and how that looks. So the area did have a perimeter that may or may not have been seen by everybody that was present or watching, but we had the area secured with a perimeter of officers, either from our city or assisting cities. And then ultimately it was found to be unfounded because we accounted for the people that were reported to be in harm's way and kind of dealt with it appropriately from there with the person that made the false report. In other news, officers are just staying real busy. Weather doesn't seem to necessarily be an issue or not. Sometimes we see that. Memorial Day weekend can sometimes make for busy, but it's just hard to say. You can't really ever predict police activity, I don't think. But we have had officers out doing traffic enforcement, working on the grant time. We've been really working on the accreditation, so happy to say all of the proofs from my side are all turned in, and then we just kind of have to weed through with the accreditation alliance to see what they want fine-tuned, and then we'll schedule an on-site review. So I think it's cruising along really well. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Chief. Anybody have any questions before Chief gets out of the hot seat? Thank you. Julie, anything else?
That's all I've got.
That leaves it with communications from the mayor and the council. Well, the council will go first. Council has nothing? Counselor Sims does. Go out there.
So I wanted to follow up on the streets thing. I really would if there was council support talking about what options we would have for a bond measure if we wanted to inject a significant amount of money into roads. But I'm not sure what the options are, what the cost. I think I kind of have an idea what the cost is going to be per year, but I really would like to maybe take a look at some of those options for looking at a bond. There may not be the support for it, but I really would like to at least get some ideas of what we could do to inject some money into our streets.
So, and we're working on that. We have our Streets 201 video that we're almost done with, and it starts to kind of lay out the various options, and we'll be sharing that with council before we share it with the public. And then that sort of launches into that conversation of, okay, now what? What is their support for, and what do we want to do, and how do we want to do it?
Perfect. You're ahead of me.
Council Ort?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank staff for the budget committee and process and all the hard work that everyone put into it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor Patty?
Yeah, ditto what Councilor Ord said. I know that we kind of threw some curveballs at you guys this year. We also threw a lot of last-minute type questions and fiscal scenarios, and I just want to say I really appreciate staff's responsiveness to jump right on those. And yeah, nice job. You guys impressed me and surprised me, so way to go.
I concur with that. I would like to give my thanks to the Budget Committee. That was a big haul this go around, and I appreciate the members for really taking an active approach to it and serving as chair and vice chair on it. So that was an interesting experience, and I appreciate. I think you benefited, the community benefited as a whole from your participation. So I appreciate that. I will tell you, to Councilor Sims' point, that I had a discussion with a prominent member of the community on Friday who was very vocal in making sure that we do the bond measure and get the streets fixed. This person's been around for a long time in the community and echoed basically what the sentiments of our constituents are, that it was never addressed in the future, now's the time to do it. So I think it's worthy of your discussion, and I thank you for having that video put together. Once that gets out there, I think we'll have the support. And so I think now's the time. I was saying that. Anything else? I will try to seek out some volunteer opportunities one more time with the community. Does everyone know what happens on November 5th? I think Councilor McDonald and Councilor Sims probably know. There will be 2 openings for the Stayton City Council in November. So if you're interested in coming up here and seeing what it's all about, I encourage you to seek out Alyssa's help. And starting on June 5th, I think is when the candidacy begins, and it ends on August 27th. So you have plenty of time to think about it. And if you have any arm twisting that needs to be done, please contact one of the councils and tell you all about it.
Please don't twist them.
Yeah, there you go.
Budget's enough.
And with that, I will tell you that I had an interesting experience on Friday, having the distinct duty to pick the best car out of the car show. And it was the mayor's choice, and I go there and I ask, well, what's the criteria? Well, there is no criteria. Just go pick what you want. And you know me, I carried that trophy around for 45 minutes trying to determine what's the most worthy car out here. And I whittled it down to some great cars. There's a lot of great cars there. And the cars that I limited right off the bat were the cars that were new to me, right? The new cars that you just go get off the showroom floor and you park it out in the street corner. I felt that the real effort and the real recognition needs to be to the folks that have built those cars up and the hot rods and whatnot and the restorations. And so at the end of the day, I picked a 67 Chevelle that was phenomenal, and it was from Sublimity. And so local flair, and it was all good. And so I had a great time at that car show with a lot of people there. So we were going to have another one on, what is it, on the first Friday of every month, right?
The last Friday.
Last Friday of every month.
Yes.
So there'll be two more, one in June and July, and then August.
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage everyone to come downtown and check it out when they have it. It was a lot of fun. Anything else? With that, we're adjourned.